The British Rail Class 8 was once a ubiquitous diesel-electric switcher in the UK, with almost 1,000 produced between 1952 and 1962. Withdrawals began in the late 60s, but more than 100 survive, mostly on heritage railroads, with a few still in service. I don't think I would have done a Class 8 on my own because I generally don't do foreign prototypes, and I feel like a lot of people have done it already. The outside frames with connecting rods also exacerbate a fundamental issue with 1:48 scale Lego trains, the relatively oversized gauge of the track. With the wheels at 6 wide, I would need 2 more plates on each side for the frames, and then an additional 1 to 2 studs for the cranks, potentially making it 12 wide at the wheels. This does depend on the purity of the crank and rod assembly, as I don't think LEGO has a genuine one-stud solution. How did I address this? Well, I cheated a little. First of all, I scaled the locomotive slightly bigger than 1:48, in the same way I scaled the T1 and Q2 slightly smaller. This makes the wheels and spacing a little cleaner, and it makes a 6-wide hood on an 8-wide frame less disproportionate. I put rails at the bottom of the body to suggest that it overhangs the similarly wide frames, and I ultimately decided to use custom cranks and rods for the 1-wide solution. These are from Breckland Bricks in the UK, and they are a little bit expensive, at least partly because I have to get them shipped internationally. The plastic feels a little soft and perhaps 3D printed, but they ultimately work well enough. More on that in a bit. While assembling this model, I realized, disappointingly, that Big Ben Bricks number 9 drivers don't fit in a 1-stud gap. The combination of the boss on the hub and the lip on the rim make them slightly too wide. This might have actually caused some friction I noticed way back on the QJ when mixing and matching official and BBB wheels. While I did look at some prior work to see what other people had done for their frames and rods, I didn't have too much trouble modeling the body due to its relatively simple shape, though it does have a decent number of greebles sprinkled all over. I did the same spacing for these panels that I did for the LS1000, and the frame has some interesting bits supporting the ladders and brakes. As for the drivetrain, I originally meant to gear all the wheels together like I did on the B1. This would over-constrain the cranks and rods, but during the design process, I did not know how well they would grip and therefore how well they would transmit torque. In the end, the locomotive weighed little enough and the parts gripped well enough to get rid of the gears, but the cranks especially seem to wear very quickly without a little bit of grease. The boxy body of the Class 8 actually gives the model enough room for power functions, but this particular build uses a MouldKing controller and motor. I previously did not know that the MouldKing hub includes both the battery and the receiver, potentially making it a decent low-cost substitute for models that require powered up. It does seem like I need to use their pretty hacky-looking app to get speed control. I might do a full review and a proper test later. The final drivetrain has a net gear ratio of 9 to 25. I used 2 stages of reduction to account for the faster speed of third-party motors and to better simulate the lower prototypical speeds of a switcher. The 480-gram model can pull about 160 grams with some thin tires on the rear axle. I did not put tires on the front axle to reduce the stress on the cranks and rods. Operationally, the entire top of the hood just lifts off to access the battery, the motor, and the minifig in the cab. The entire model is actually pretty sturdy and can be picked up from the sides. On that note, this is the end of the video. See the description for commission inquiries, and please consider subscribing if you like what we do. Also, have a nice day.